What's going on, my friends? It's your main man, Rick the Don. Thank you all for tuning in for some more BB talk. Before I get started, I have to say thank you so much for the people who continue to support me and continue to show me love, and just really appreciate that. You guys just deserve a quick shout out. Also, don't be a stranger. Go check out my new websites. That's vidmodel.com and also wordy.com. Create an account and enjoy. I made it for you. Now, I want to go ahead and take a quick look at Wednesday's episode. As you know, Michael is the HOH, and the way that Sunday's episode ends leaves a lot to be imagined. I think I want to have a little fun with this episode and just kind of talk about what I think will happen, and also what I wouldn't mind seeing happen. Now, Terrence, Joseph, and Monty are on the block. And if you don't know, it is mainly due to strategy. Monty goes to Michael and say, "Hey, I don't mind you put me on the block. It'll keep the illusion alive that we are not working together." And unfortunately, the same thing has happened to a lot of players in this game. Going up as a pawn isn't what it used to be. I think that the players in the game don't quite understand that we are in a new era of Big Brother where pawns go home, especially pawns that are not actually pawns. Now, if you're a pawn because your player that's not really making a lot of moves, making a lot of splashes, I mean, you should expect to go home at this point. I mean, if you look at Pooch, if you look at Nicole, this whole concept of a pawn has now completely changed. Unless you're actually playing as a pawn, I don't think that you should put yourself up as a pawn. In fact, I think that this is another shift where players are putting themselves up as a pawn. Can you believe that? Did that happen a lot? I can't say that I've seen it happen a lot. Now, I know there's a couple moves by Dr. Will that might suggest that this has been a thing, but for the most part, this hasn't been a reoccurring thing. A lot of times the HOH would select the pawn, and usually that pawn selected by the HOH would actually be a player that wasn't that good. And, by all intents and purposes, that pawn would be safe. But in this case, you have people nominating themselves as pawns when they're not really pawns. And I think this season is going to show why that's a bad strategy. I don't see this becoming a trend in the next episode or the next season. I'm sorry, BB25. I don't see this whole self-electing process carrying over. And I think we've seen a lot of bad examples by this point. And Monty follows stride and say, "Hey, you can put me up," which would also nominate Terrence and Joseph. Okay, fine, no problem. On Wednesday, we'll have the veto competition. And here's where things get really interesting. Okay, the veto competition is going to decide everything. Can you imagine what happens if Daniel wins the veto competition? Chaos ensues. First off, Daniel will most likely keep the nominations the same, which would all but force Michael or the house even, to take a shot at one of these three players. Here's the problem though, because two of those three players are leftovers members. And we already heard how Michael is having second thoughts. Michael is a very, very interesting player. He's a player that I really admire, but I can't ignore the fact that he doesn't stay in alliances long. And you know what? From a viewer's perspective, I hate it. From an adoration perspective or watching someone play a masterful game, it's the perfect thing to do. You don't want to get too comfortable in one alliance, especially as the game starts to fluctuate, because things change on a daily basis. So staying in one alliance may not be that good. It's almost like wearing the same shoes throughout an entire summer season. It's like, wait a minute, that might not be the right move, because as things change, you want to be able to have options. And Michael has created a space for himself where he can have options on top of options on top of options. I mean, he can go back to his old alliances should the leftovers break down. He has an alliance with Taylor and Brittany. He can leave that alliance and try something different. He can go. He has a sub alliance with Daniel. Michael literally has alliances all throughout the house. Now, here's the real question: how strong are those alliances? Because maybe the right move is to say everything you need to say. One, because Michael's a challenge threat. He's a problem. He's an issue. And the second thing is he's in power right now. So how true are these alliances? We won't know until they're actually tested. We won't know until Michael has zero power, that being after losing a veto. Michael hasn't really lost a veto like that. I mean, he's lost maybe two at tops, right? Of all the veto competitions that have happened. So he's always had a say-so in what's going on. Now, what happens when Michael doesn't have that power after the veto competition is done with? What happens then? Now you get the real version of people. I mean, it's very easy to accept the love from people as you're on top, but what happens when you're not on, or actually you're on top and you don't have the power to stay there? That's when you're going to really see who's rocking and who's working with you. I'm not sure if Michael sees that at this moment. Now, so we have the veto competition coming up, and I wanted to just give out my picks, and I really want to know what you think in the comment section. Who will win the veto competition? Here are my picks. I have Michael, I have Monty, and I have Taylor. Those are my three picks to win the veto competition. Here's why. Monty has to know that being on the block means he's in trouble. And if there's anybody who can actually battle with Michael, it would be Monty. Monty understands the ramifications here that, hey, even though you're in an alliance with this guy, Michael, even though you have the majority, all these things sound great on paper, but Monty has had to pay attention. In fact, he was part of the scheme which sent Nicole home, so he knows the ramifications of this particular move, going up as a pawn. I would imagine that Monty's going to go hard. Now, Monty hasn't completely convinced me that he is a competition threat, but I would like to see him try. You know, I like to believe that he is an actual threat. And I think someone said in this episode, the one on Sunday, that he's an all-around player. And I said that several times. So apparently people in the game are also seeing things that I'm seeing as well. I said Taylor because I believe Taylor at some point in this season is going to make a big difference. She's going to actually snap into something. I think she is not in that role yet because there's still a lot of strong players in the game. But pretty soon, those players will either leave or they'll just kind of start to fall back and try to stay underneath the radar. And I think at that point, Taylor will snap on. I think she has a great shot at winning this veto, especially since Monty's on the block, and I think that she likes Monty as a player. So I would argue that there's something there. But of course, those two players, that being Monty and Taylor, are just, throws in the bucket. Here's who I really think wins this thing, and that is Michael. Michael has the ultimate power in the game in terms of winning competitions. He's a social threat. He's an alliance threat. He has alliances all over the house. Michael is the ultimate player, and he is the second player behind Pooch, who's gone now, which means Michael has bumped up as my number one player to win the game. And I picked Michael at the beginning of the game. I didn't pick him after I saw how good he was. I picked him based on looks and how his first conversations went. Now let's talk about why Terrence, Joseph, and Monty are the perfect players to have on the block right now. First off, if the nominations stay the same, you can easily take a shot at Terrence if you want to keep the leftovers alliance alive and intact. However, if Michael wants to make a big move, Monty's right there for the taking, and plus he has Daniel's support. Now, if Monty, Terrence, and Joseph come down, he can easily replace those players with Kyle and Daniel. And of course, Kyle will be safe because he has Alyssa and the leftovers alliance. Perfect move. I mean, he's covered and insulated on every part of his move, and that's the kind of move you want to make. You want to make a move that is so structurally sound that it can't go wrong, even if one or two things go wrong. He has a three-tiered move right here. This is a three-tiered move that's protected and, three times protected. Let me say that again. I want to say that clean because I never heard it before. He has a three-tiered move that is three times protected. Super smart, right? So here's the thing. Now I want to quickly talk about the veto competition and what happens and how this whole veto thing works out. Of those three players, that being Michael, Taylor, and Monty, I'm going to select Michael as my definitive choice because when I do these preview episodes, I like to just make a hard decision on who I think actually takes the entire thing moving forward. So I do think those three players have a good shot, but I'm going to go ahead and make my canon pick Michael. I believe Michael wins the veto competition. And here's what I think is going to happen. I believe, without doubt, he's going to keep the nominations the same, surprisingly. Now, of course, Big Brother Editing is giving you sneaks and peeks about Michael possibly using this veto competition to, take a shot at Monty and Joe. No, Monty, I'm sorry. But let's be very clear. Michael is not going to make that move this early. So, yes, he will. No, I don't. I think he's going to. Wait, do I think he's going to keep the noms the same? I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna go yes. This is the part where the hard decisions come in. I'm gonna say that yes, Michael keeps the nominations the same, but he does not take the shot at Monty. I'm gonna say that definitively. Please come back and check out this video after the episode airs, just to kind of see me be completely wrong if you want to see that. But I believe without a shadow of a doubt, Michael keeps the nominations the same. And of course, I don't watch live feeds. So if it happens, then I just understand I know the game. I'm not looking at live feeds at all, ever. So here's my picks. I'm not afraid to be wrong. Michael's going to win the veto. Michael's going to keep the nominations the same, which is going to make Daniel salivate. It's going to make the viewers at home fearful. And, is he really going to do this? No, he is not. Not even close. I think Michael's going to keep the nominations the same and take a shot at Terrence. It's the safe move. It doesn't really upset Daniel. It doesn't upset the leftovers. I believe Terrence will be the one that goes home. Okay, that's my pick. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be anything more than that. Here's why he doesn't take the shot at Monty. He's not crazy. If he makes that decision this early, he might have the support of Brittany and Daniel, but that's about all that he might have the support of. Maybe Kyle joins in on this move, so that would be Brittany, Daniel, Kyle. That's 3 players. Remember, Michael can't vote for this week's nominees, so he only has 3 people. Maybe Alyssa, because she will follow Kyle's vote. So yeah, So if he's going for Monty, if Michael's going for Monty, he would probably have Kyle, Alyssa, Daniel, and Brittany. So that's 4 votes. Yeah, I don't see, and I think that would also rub the rest of the leftovers wrong. It would definitely make Joseph think twice about anything Michael was doing. It would also make Taylor suspicious about Michael moving forward. And going for Monty this early, though it might be immediate satisfaction for Michael, I do believe Monty's early exit would clearly and unadulteratedly place the aim or the bullseye on Michael. And you have to remember that Michael won't have the opportunity to play HOA or play in the HOH competition the following week. So at that particular point, Michael will be open season, and they would have seen him take a shot at his own alliance member. It's too early for that kind of gameplay, and it's without doubt that I say that Michael is going to keep the nominations the same, so he's not getting blood on his hands, and he's going to take a shot at Terrence, which is the safest move. Mark my words, that is my picks for what will happen on Wednesday and Thursday, okay? Now, let's just play a little game here. Let's just have a little fun. Let's say that Michael decides to take the shot at Monty. Let's just have some fun here. What are the ramifications of that decision? If Wednesday comes around, Michael wins the veto, which I think he will, because he hasn't really not won it. So I say Michael wins the veto, and let's say he keeps the nominations the same with the intentions of taking a shot at Monty. First off, that would be great TV. It'll be amazing. Daniel will be extremely happy. And guess what? I'm going to make the alternative decision. Let's say in an alternative universe, because I don't believe this happens. Here's what I think would happen if Michael did that. He would probably break away from the Leftovers Alliance, who wouldn't trust him anyway. And as such, he will align himself with a brand new alliance. Because Michael always jumps from alliance to alliance to alliance. That is Michael's calling card. He has not really been faithful to any alliance. And I don't see the Leftovers being any different. Michael is here to win the game. He is not here to build an alliance. Let's be very clear. So I would think that if he did that decision or made that decision to actually gun for Monty, he would create a new alliance, that being Kyle, Alyssa, Daniel, Brittany, Michael. 5 people right there. That's a really good 5. It is nowhere near as strong as the 7 of the leftovers. But Michael was starting to get that itch. He's starting to realize that in this top 7, Monty can go on a absolute run. And not to mention, Michael has aligned himself with some very strong players. I've already alluded to this. This leftovers alliance is a super alliance. Have you ever seen this many good players align? Think about it. You got Kyle. He's a great all-around player. You got Michael himself. You got Monty, another all-around player. You got Joseph, a physical specimen. You have Turner, which is a sneaky, intelligent super player. You got Taylor, which is like she has a nice, she's very strong physically and she's smart. And then you got Brittany. Yeah. So the point is, that's a super alliance. So why would you water that alliance down this early and then go jump to a very simple a fivesome? Wait, it's Michael. That's why he would do it, because he knew he could beat those other 4 players. Think about it. He could beat Daniel without any problem. He can beat Kyle. He can beat Brittany. He can beat Brittany, and he can beat Alyssa. And by the way, that alliance will probably bring in Indy just because. So Michael can beat every player in that alliance, which I would have to make the argument. Michael should consider that move. Take the shot at Monty, which removes one of the biggest threats from the game, and then you hop over and start this brand new alliance with Daniel, Alyssa, Kyle, and Brittany. You can beat all those players, and I don't think they have the strategy to then turn things around and take a shot at Michael. I don't see any of those players being this super strategic threat. So would I like to see that? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? Not at all. Not at all. But this season has been very different, so it's very possible. But certainly, I don't think he would make that move this early. I would love to be wrong. But thank you for watching this preview. I will be right there watching the TV with you on Wednesday. And certainly, after the episode airs and finishes, I'll come back and See what happens. But here's what I think will happen. Just do a quick and final recap. I believe that Michael will win the veto. He will keep the nominations the same with the aim of taking a shot at Terrence and saving Monty for later. That's what I think will happen, and we will see. All right. Thank you all for checking me out. I'll be right back. I got one more video I want to do live. Peace.